government industrial strategy, which was launched towards the end of last year, 2017, runs to 130 pages. It seeks to do some pretty tremendous things with the UK economy. Essentially, it's looking for major increases in economic growth, looking for something which is very hard to find in the UK economy, which is increased productivity, but it's all underpinned with the full understanding from government, which I think is pretty impressive, that the government understands that the whole thing has to be done through a low carbon economy. And one of the things it points to in the industrial strategy is that it believes that the growth in the low carbon economy in the UK will be around 4 times the expected growth in the economy overall. And what this means for people who are involved in clean energy, renewables, smart energy, is that the basic infrastructure in the UK is expected to grow spectacularly more than the average UK economy. So it's an excellent area to be in. And it means that there's going to be more opportunities for facilities managers and building operators and infrastructure operators to draw on the new technologies to improve the way their infrastructure and their buildings work. Yes, the strategy, being a national strategy, does think big and express itself in big terms. It talks about the need to exploit the growth in clean technology. And clean technology means energy, it also means the use of cleaner materials, less pollution, what have you, but certainly energy is central to that argument. It talks about exploiting the need for better low carbon mobility in the UK. It's code for electric vehicles. It's also talking about the challenges of the ageing population, which there are many. And it talks, and I think quite interestingly, about artificial intelligence and data, and the explosion in data capability, and how to actually tie those 4 grand challenges together so that those industries and those people working in those sectors of the economy, data, mobility, clean energy, can feed off of each other and get that extra economic growth that the strategy is looking for. Right, well, what happened towards the end of 2017 was that the government issued its clean growth strategy. And what that showed is that it fully understands that the future of the UK economy is about low carbon growth. What it also said, though, is that it wanted to express which forms of low carbon growth it favoured. And for example, there were some very strong messages in there about the future of offshore wind, renewables, but also smart energy and distributed energy. The future of the UK economy in terms of energy, both in terms of production and usage, is going to be much more about distributed energy, the provision of renewable and other energy from micro sites rather than centrally produced electricity such as we see an awful lot of now.
Okay, excellent.
The clean growth strategy preceded the industrial strategy, and what it did is it basically plugged into the industrial strategy and said, whatever this industrial strategy is going to do for the UK economy, it's going to be based on clean, low carbon growth, and these are the areas that we're going to favour. And I think the one that we tend to pick out at the ECA of being most interest to our members and possibly to our clients and others is the arena of distributed energy, and the idea that this is going to grow very dramatically. One of the reasons it will grow partly is because of the phenomenon of energy storage, which we're on the cusp of seeing, I think, some quite spectacular growth there because battery prices are coming down. And one of the things about batteries is that whether you like them, don't like them, whatever, one of their key attributes is that they can be stored anywhere. You can put batteries anywhere. And what's happening commercially is that this is beginning to be taken up now as battery prices become competitive. Yes. So what the government wants to do is make the grid much more fit for, not for so much current purpose, but purpose in the next few years and beyond. It doesn't believe that centralised generation, certainly it won't be looking at coal, but even gas is going to be the way forward for the UK economy. The growth will come from distributed energy, where renewables feed into stored systems, which are then given into the grid or support the grid on a much more flexible basis. Now that model of having stored energy, particularly when it's backed by renewables such as solar and wind, is something that anybody can take up, commercially certainly. And what you'll find is that there'll be much more small packages of energy being taken from and put into the grid. And the government needs to make sure that the grid can handle these inputs and outputs from distributed sources, and also handle the notion that some customers will be able to hold electricity in storage and deliver it to the grid, both to balance the grid and to provide capacity on demand, and that the government's national grid will have to pay these people to do that, rather than pay central power producers to produce coal or gas-fired electricity. So there's a significant developments there, but the final significant development which the government is anticipating, and which it's flagged up both in its clean growth strategy and in the industrial strategy, is the growth of the electric vehicle. The government is absolutely confident that there will be a significant and major upturn in electric vehicle production and use in the UK, and that's highly significant for our whole sector. So I think the opportunities for ECA members are significant. They're already there for some members, and we see this. We speak to a lot of members who are already doing some very good business in the area of installation and servicing smart distributed systems based on lithium-ion batteries, for example. That's just one example. Going forward, we do think that's going to grow significantly, and the reason we say that is because battery prices continue to fall, and they are becoming competitive now with other forms of energy storage and distribution in the UK economy. And as I mentioned earlier, the fact that batteries can be used so readily in virtually any environment, whether it's an office environment, a hospital, these are real opportunities for installation where the customer, having installed smart distributed energy systems in their building or through their infrastructure, can see revenue, not just cost. In other words, they're not just going to get cheap electricity, they can actually sell electricity back to the grid and to sell services. Now, all that work's got to be designed and installed and maintained. Now, what's interesting is that the build in the UK, the construction budget is about £90 billion a year. The actual operating capital expenditure in the UK for buildings and facilities is about £125 billion a year. So the opportunity actually within the maintenance side is more significant than in the installation side. So there'll be plenty of ongoing service relationships that our members can build with clients and others to help them deliver the savings that they're looking for, and also to gain revenue through having a distributed energy system. I think the other thing that the government said in its industrial strategy, although I'm not sure it actually knew how it was going to achieve it, was that it was still looking for energy efficiency. So in addition to all these smart and distributed energy systems and what they can do in terms of buying and selling electricity and what have you, there's also a need there for overall energy efficiency measures, be that through better insulation, using LEDs or what have you. Again, our members need to be experts in all those areas so that when they're talking to their clients, they can advise them on the best ways to achieve energy efficiency.